Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals on the Brain, episode 66, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Joe Goodberry. Day one of free agency is in the books. Started Monday, the legal tampering period at noon, but at about 11 a.m., we got our first news of the day. And it's exciting, I guess. A full news day if you're a Bengals fan. A lot going on. Some of it good, some of it cool, some of it sad, some of it awesome, some of it we predicted. So we'll go through that, recap, react, and give my thoughts now that we've got a day to think about it and reset, because there's a lot of things that came fast. And do they matter? Will it matter? Some of it will, some won't. Let's start from the very top at about 11 a.m. Adam Schefter tweeted that T. Higgins has formally requested a trade from the Cincinnati Bengals, saying that they haven't engaged in contract talks since March of 2023. Which would mean you would want, I want the long-term deal, right? Love Cincinnati, but I want the long-term deal. Though it was paraphrasing there, but that's basically what he said. The tweet said. First, they have talked since March. T. Higgins and his agent have not moved on the large number that they're asking for. And we're talking about guaranteed money. Whenever you're talking with a David Mulligetta agent, you are talking about guaranteed money. That's what he's looking for in free agency. That's what he's looking for as guys. That is king for free agents and players that are looking for that second contract. Bengals typically don't give it. We've hammered this to death. The idea that they could ever get a deal done with Jessie Bates or T. Higgins, same agent, always hinged on would they break their structure for a non-all-pro, Pro Bowl, Tier 1 player like they did with Joe Burrow, like we expect them to do with Jamar Chase. If you believe they won't, then deal's not going to get done. At this point, I would say T and his agent don't believe a deal is going to get done. Well, because every time the Bengals call and say, hey, do you want to talk about a contract again? And they say, we want $65 million in guaranteed money, the Bengals just hang up the phone. It ends right there. So from their side, from the players' side, the Bengals won't even negotiate. From the Bengals side, T and his agent won't even negotiate. So anyone that believes that or has written some fan fiction in their head that T. Higgins is going to storm into that negotiating room and demand his agent work for him, his agent is working for him. His agent is trying to get him the best deal he can. This is what T wants. T wants the bag. And there's nothing wrong with that. Do not take this the wrong way, please. He wants the bag because he deserves it, because he's a young player that if he was a free agent, he would get it. He would probably get that money. So that's what he's worth. He just wants the Bengals to pay it. As a lot, anyone that says, well, I want T back, I want T, I want, any player or any even fan, you want him at the price that he wants then, right? You want him to get paid. You want him to be one of the top 3 to 5 paid wide receivers in the league. If you don't, then we have a decision to make, because the Bengals do hold all of the cards. So is this a ploy from the agent, maybe the last negotiation tactic they have to get the Bengals to budge? Yes, it is. They don't have much else, because the Bengals will tag T, not just this year. They will threaten to tag him again next year, because the tag 2 years in a row, how that works is the second year tag the price increases to 120% of the first year tag. And the first year tag money is calculated by the top 5 paid players in 2023, basically, where it was when the tag numbers were figured out. So it doesn't take into account all the cap inflation over the next 2 years. If you want to tag them twice, it goes back to that original number. It'd be $25.6 million. If by that time, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and others have extended, they're all going to be making 30 to 35. A $25 million hit is going to be top 12, maybe, top 15 potentially. It's the Bengals can stomach that if T has a big year and they want to tag him again. So of course they're threatening this. And of course that is going to frustrate you as an agent and player. If you're going to guarantee this year 22 and then 25 next year, 47 million, and we're only asking for 60, 65 into year 3, just guarantee it. You're going to do it anyways with 2 tags. And I feel like I've said this before when we went over the T. Higgins situation. Just do it. But from the Bengals' perspective, well, you're coming off your worst year. Statistically, continued health issues, soft tissue like hamstring issues that have stemmed back into college. Why would we guarantee this when we could tag you twice and decide each year if we want to continue with you? You have to prove you're a 1,000-yard receiver again and you can stay healthy. And then we'll tag you again. So I get it. They don't want to break their structure for non-cornerstone players. Cornerstone's the wrong word. T could be a cornerstone player. I think there's like a tier 1. Have you made a Pro Bowl? Have you made a first-team All-Pro? If you have not, then you're not a tier 1 player in their eyes. It's the tier 2 players they've struggled to sign. The Kevin Zeitlers, the Jonathan Joseph, the Justin Smith. And there's the issue that, in Cincinnati, we get overlooked and the players don't make the Pro Bowl. They should be tier 1 players. They go on elsewhere and have long careers like Justin Smith, Takeo Spikes, Jonathan Joseph. Kevin Zeitler still playing, just made a Pro Bowl. They go on to make Pro Bowls elsewhere. But in Cincinnati, they don't. So should we treat them as lesser and not give them the money? Fair argument. So does this change anything? Will T be traded? Will the Bengals say, okay, fine, we'll trade him? I don't think so. The biggest change to it is this makes it public that T is open to being traded, that the agent would like permission to probably seek a trade, talk to these other teams, even if you do it secretly. I'm not sure how legal that is, but maybe, during negotiations, you're talking and saying, go call the Bengals, please. Offer a first-round pick. That's what they want. If it kind of takes it out of the Bengals' court and puts it into T and his agent's court to figure it out and get that was bothering me and get a deal done elsewhere. Still, I don't think it happens because I think the Bengals will overvalue T and say we want a first-round pick in exchange. Now, I did see last night as the Panthers traded Brian Burns for a 2nd and 5th round pick. Very similar situation. They can't get a contract done with him. He's on the tag. Because of those situations, because of those things, you get lesser value. You get a 2nd and 5th. Those Panthers get a lot of picks now. And the Panthers seem to be the only team that was really interested in T previously. Pro Football Talk reported that nobody has called about T. Higgins yet or offered. Nobody has offered anything for T. Higgins in a trade yet. But maybe the Panthers would again or would call again with extra picks. And could that get the Bengals to move? If he's not going to be here long term, if we are accepting, and at this point, guys, if you're still holding out hope that he's going to sign an extension, I don't know what else to tell you. But if we accept that he's only going to be here at maximum 2 years, and for those 2 years, he's going to be really expensive. Because if you extended T, you could drop his cap hit. We just saw it with Justin Madubuike with the Ravens. They went from a $23 million franchise tag to $9.5 million cap hit year 1 by extending him because you push the cap hits to later when the cap grows. So you're not maximizing his value by tagging him twice in terms of cap dollars. The Bengals like to pack the cap in the wrong way, making it harder on themselves. This is a way to make it harder on yourself. So if we accept it, the team should probably trade T. Higgins, reload and re-gear for the next few years. Free agency, there's not a lot of players to spend this money on this year, but you could figure it out. You could pack up this offensive line. You could sign a receiver, Darnell Mooney, let's say, for half the price, and then still draft a guy. It probably doesn't change anything at all in their approach, but it was interesting. The next big news we got was about 90 minutes into free agency. The Bengals announced their first signing. They didn't announce it, I should say. It was announced that the first free agent they've acquired was Geno Stone, the free safety from the Baltimore Ravens out of Iowa in college. Former 7th-round pick, had 7 interceptions last year, was a really, really good player in that Baltimore defense. Only 25 years old this season. This is the Von Bell type of signing where you find that guy who is still young, entering his prime or entering that second contract phase that you can get at a value. It's maybe even Trey Hendrickson, where he's ascending into that year 4 and getting better year 3, year 4. Like he's that guy now. And you pay him and ends up being a value. Send him to a 2-year, $14 million deal. I almost said 16. Very fair value. We're expecting a $6 million cap hit year 1, $8 million cap hit year 2. Fine. The Bengals needed a free safety. We did the offseason mock 2 months ago at this point. No, just 1 month. It was February. It was February 7th on this channel. And here's what we did at the time. I would really like to get a free safety in here that could work. Many of these guys are free safeties. Or do I just get a veteran guy that can fit in there? Cameron Curl is good. Those guys are going to get a lot of money. Alohi Gilman, I would take. Geno Stone is the guy I would absolutely love to steal from the Ravens. And at this point would be our biggest signing. Let's go with Geno Stone. Would the Bengals go that high? Okay, so we're not paying Dax too much. We're paying nothing to Jordan Battle. We saved 2.3 on Nick Scott. Could I go like 3 years at $6 million per year? Would that even be enough, or is Geno Stone going to break the bank? I think his pedigree will stay with him. I'll even guarantee just a little bit more to see if we can get that. Okay. So I'm done submitting for today, and let's see how it goes. At the top here, Jermaine Illuminor accepted our offer. Geno Stone accepted our offer. Hey, the 2 biggest guys that I wanted to go for right there. Great. And I'm going to say this too as well. If you're expecting to see me to go after tier 1 guys, I don't think the Bengals do. The only tier 1 guy I've ever had them signing is DJ Reader. Other than that, they've been great, absolutely great at identifying the 25, 26-year-old tier 2 and tier 3 guy that's just entering his prime. The Von Bell, the Trey Hendrickson, the Chidobe Awuzie, the Mike Hilton. Like those are the signings that built this team. Don't get me wrong, DJ Reader was one of them as well. But once that was before, like that's without paying anyone else on your roster. Now that you're paying a quarterback, you need to live with those tier 2, tier 3, and even tier 4 free agents. And man, I'm telling you right now, I think Geno Stone is well worth that $6 million. So not trying to say that I called it, but definitely did on that. And the excitement about it is I don't think they had a free safety on the roster last year. And that was a big issue for why they allowed so many explosive plays. They wanted Dax Hill to be that position and be that player, but like he wasn't that in college. The guy who had the most free safety snaps of the 3 guys they're basically inserting into that role last year of Dax Hill, Jordan Battle, and Nick Scott was Jordan Battle. He's the only guy who's actually ever played it before. And I think they were happy with the development of Battle, but it took half the year to get him in the lineup. Nick Scott killed them in a lot of ways. They wanted him to be the communicator. He couldn't handle it, so they had to hand it to Dax Hill, the only guy who played 100% of the snaps and played the most snaps on the defense last year. So what happens to Dax Hill in this situation? Because I think Geno Stone is a good player, and you didn't spend a lot. And one of the things, so I want to finish with him first before I go to Dax. One of the things that you should be excited about is when the Bengals had Bates and Bell, they covered up so many issues at corner. I mean, they got to the Super Bowl with Eli Apple starting and almost got back with him. When you have that true free safety, you can do these things. But they were very interchangeable in terms of we're going to show one thing and pull it out. We're going to show you this coverage and then switch it. You got to hold your water long enough in order to confuse the quarterback and not give it away too soon. We did this on tape reviews during the season, showing this on defense and how they were kind of giving away before the play was starting. The Ravens and the Vikings, but the Ravens are one of the most confusing defenses in the league, showing pre-snap, post-snap. Great defensive coordinator who got a head coaching job with Seattle. The ability for them to be that confusing and dynamic and interchangeable starts in a lot of ways with their free safety and Geno Stone, being able to help communicate and coordinate and hold all of that stuff together and not give up explosives while they're doing all this crazy stuff underneath. The Bengals want to get back to that. Lou Anarumo talked about it at the combine, about the communication and how he couldn't call what he wanted to call because they couldn't execute it. And this isn't just a Dax Hill thing. I don't think this is automatically a Dax Hill is a bust and we're moving on. Even when Battle won the starting job at strong safety, he was only playing 85% of the snaps. There were a lot of snaps where he wasn't out there. Dax was still playing 100% at that time. I think there is a scenario where Dax could beat Battle. I know that sounds crazy, but we're talking about a guy who's super athletic, young, and would look better in the box. So we couldn't beat out Jordan Battle, a third-round pick? That'd be bad. But would it be bad? I mean, if Battle's that good and that good of a communicator, great. So what do you do with Dax Hill in that scenario where Battle is the starting safety alongside Geno Stone? You can mix them and match them and get them in the game and rotate that third safety in the game. They did that with Ricardo Allen before he got hurt the Super Bowl year. He could have played about 30% of the snaps that year doing that. Still, that's not starting snaps for a first-round pick in Dax Hill. I do think there are games where they struggle to get Mike Hilton on the field because teams are out there in 12 personnel with 2 tight ends instead of 3 wide receivers, where you don't need a slot corner out there. Mike Hilton plays about 65% of the snaps as it is. I could see it where you don't have to force him out there as much. Maybe he's down to 60%, maybe he's down to 58%, and those snaps go to Dax Hill as a 3 safety base defense look, a big nickel, where it's 3 safeties instead of 3 corners. And you can cover Dax, can go on Travis Kelce when the Chiefs are out there with 2 wide receivers. Or you can cover Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely when the Ravens are out there with 2 wide receivers. The Titans did this. The Titans were tough in those playoff games. In that playoff game in the year afterwards, they wouldn't let Mike Hilton on the field because they're not out there with 3 wide receivers. So you either force Hilton out there at 5'8", 180, defending the run, taking on offensive linemen, or you say, all right, Dax, you are the big nickel slot, and you cover tight ends. And you cover tight ends in the dime and quarter packages, a la Trey Flowers from the year they went to the Super Bowl and the year after that, where Flowers would be a specialized man tight end and come in and cover those guys. I definitely see that as Dax's role. And then we may see him be the backup full-time slot or the backup full-time, maybe a boundary corner if they can't find one. We'll see what happens in free agency. But I think he'll be a Swiss Army knife with his main role being slot and cover tight ends. And if you want to criticize them, it's fair because they let Jessie Bates walk. And now the year later, they're paying for a free safety after spending a first-round pick that you're not sure is going to be a full-time starter. Not a great process. And also an argument for why you shouldn't trade T and you should just pay him because you botched this one. Potentially. They may have seen that they deserve some fire for that. They do also deserve some credit for recognizing it and saying, let's go get a guy and fix him. Let's get Dax back where he plays his best. Let's fix it before it goes on too long. Which there was also a report that the Bengals were linked, this was from The Athletic, linked to corner Kendall Fuller of the Washington Commanders. He played with the Chiefs also. He's traded back and forth. He started with Washington, went to KC, back to Washington. He was originally traded in that Alex Smith deal that sent him to Washington, but was a slot corner / safety early in his career, boundary corner later. I mean, Dax, that sounds like Dax Hill situation, but Kendall Fuller's been really, really good. He's 29 years old. That's the only thing that really, what is this, a 2-year deal? Would the Bengals give a 3-year deal to a 29-year-old corner? I don't think so. His projection is about $13 million per year. We're talking corner 1 money, not exactly corner 1, but high-end corner 2. Are they admitting that DJ Turner probably shouldn't be starting? Potentially. The 4th corner has played a lot in Cincinnati. A lot. We mentioned Eli Apple a minute ago. He was the 4th corner. Remember, Trey Waynes was supposed to start. Cam Taylor-Britt, when they got to the AFC Championship game, came in the year as the 4th corner. ended up being a starter at the end of the year. Chidobe Awuzie, DJ Turner, however you want to split them as the fourth corner last year, they both played more than Cam Taylor-Britt. Cam Taylor-Britt's dealt with injuries. If they go and spend big at corner and then at free safety as well with that Geno Stone signing, they have sent the message. You young guys that we have drafted, you got to play better, number one. Number two, we're not messing around. We're going to fix it as soon as possible, which I can't blame them for. Sure, the draft picks, we'll give them, some heat about that and not nailing those when you need it when you're in a Super Bowl window. But going out and spending money to fix it, I would never complain about it. So we'll see what happens with the Kendall Fuller thing. Won't spend too much time on that. He would be a welcome addition because he'd be a good player. The next move was the NFL announced, and the beat got a hold of this first, that the Bengals would receive a third-round compensatory pick for their loss of Jessie Bates. Originally thought that they were getting nothing for Bates and that Orlando Brown Jr.'s contract would cancel that out. When the league sent out their compensatory picks last week, the original projections were the 5th and 7th rounder. The formula was different, and the formula was public. So for them to make it different was weird. There's guys that are experts in this very small category on the internet, Nick Corte to be specific, who said, wait a second, if you're going to use this formula, then the Bengals should have got a third-round pick for Jessie Bates. And he laid it out. And a guy like that, if he's sure about it, because that's his expertise, he's the leading expert in it, the league saw. And they said, you're right, we made a mistake. Here's the third-round compensatory pick. It'll be pick number 97 in the third round. Gives the Bengals 4 picks in the top 100. And you can see in this class the way it's segmented. There's a good top 50, a quality top 50. There's a solid top 100, and it really drops off afterwards. It's good to have that last third round pick, that 97th overall selection. That could be a center, a guard, a tight end, a running back, a defensive tackle, whatever the case may be. That really helps and boosts this team's overall talent. And I'm hoping that, the past year's compensatory picks have been a mixed bag for this team, but at the same time, I'll take extra swings anytime you can get it. I think the Bengals need to nail this draft class. In a weak free agency pool, they need to nail the draft in order to stay on the trajectory they want to be at. And this just helps. So big news, and I'm excited for that. Then we turn to the biggest storyline of day one of free agency, and that the Bengals agreed to a 2-year, $8 million deal with running back Zack Moss, who played for the Indianapolis Colts after, I want to say, he was traded from the Buffalo Bills a couple years ago. Didn't work out with the Bills and had a really good year replacing Jonathan Taylor in the first half of the season in Indianapolis. Looked really strong, agile, broke off some decently long runs. I don't mean like 80-yarders. I mean his explosive rate of getting over 15-yard runs was decently high, 25%, which was higher than Mixon's. And they immediately turned and released Mixon, or at least it was announced within minutes. So it was clearly a 1-for-1. This is, again, I talked about this. I expected Mixon to be cut the entire time. They were looking to replace him in free agency, and a lot of people still didn't believe it or rejected it. The writing was on the wall. Like, I'm not happy about this. I'm not excited about Mixon being cut. I really enjoyed watching him. He was one of my favorite prospects coming out of the 2017 draft. He was a top 10 prospect on my database. He's a guy I thought, and I argued with my man, Willie Anderson, on Twitter and said that Joe Mixon could be the best running back they ever drafted or the most talented. And that's what I felt at the time. And maybe he never reached those lofty expectations, but he ended up being the number 2 leading rusher in league in team history, with loads of highlights. I mean, he threw a touchdown in the Super Bowl as a running back. I wish they would have won the Super Bowl that year for him. The 7 years were awesome, and he was a big part of that. So it's, on one hand, sad to see him go, despite being happy that the organization made a sound football move. You shouldn't pay $8.75 for a running back in a passing offense, especially a running back that doesn't fit anymore. So turning around and spending $4 on a running back that you feel can be part of a committee, giving Chase Brown more. And then they got to find the third back, because I think that's part of the committee as well. They have struggled when Mixon has been the lead guy to figure out how to use the number 2 guy, whether it was Giovanni Bernard and he just had a passing, pass blocking role, or Samaje Perine, where he just had the pass blocking role. I mean, Mixon still ended up with 300 touches last year, so you have to replace that. And I think it's going to be a combination of mostly 2 guys, but 3 guys replacing those touches in total. Did they get better? Did they get more talented doing this? Probably not. But can they be better on offense? Can they be more efficient on offense? Can you get fresher legs being a year and a half younger with your starting back who hasn't had the wear and tear, the carries on him? Yeah, you can. Can you be better because you have a more robust and dynamic backfield in terms of the 1 through 3 than you had last year, where you had to give Mixon 90% of the touches? Yes, for sure. And all of these things makes your offense better. And then saving a little bit of money, $2 million, negligible. It doesn't matter, right? They may use that for somebody, may not. They could save $4 million just by restructuring Orlando Brown's deal and getting that free money. But we'll see if they do that. So Mixon is gone. Zack Moss inserted. I think Mixon will find a home somewhere. Get a deal done somewhere. Chidobe Awuzie also signed with the Tennessee Titans. So that's their 2 losses of day one. Mixon and Awuzie replacing Mixon with Moss. Haven't found a corner just yet. You know, I think we should spend more time on the Mixon thing because we're talking about the longevity now of the position, not just the position, but the players that were here before Zach Taylor. It was down to Sam Hubbard, Joe Mixon, and Tyler Boyd were the Marvin Lewis holdovers from just before, the final couple of years, the final couple of drafts before the Zach Taylor era started. And now Boyd's going to be gone and Mixon is gone. That leaves just Sam Hubbard. And there's been even talks, amongst us, I don't think within the organization at all, but of how many more years, how much time does Sam Hubbard have left? It goes quick. Like we always think 10, we'll have this guy for 10 years. We'll have this guy for 7 years. And we're like, yeah, that's it. We got one guy left from that era. And it's understandable. That's how it goes. That's how the clock turns. That's how the NFL lifespan is shorter than many like to remember. The time goes by quickly. And what was the moment? I asked this in the Twitter Spaces yesterday for subscribers. What was the moment for you when you were like, yeah, they should probably move on from Mixon? Because it was probably different for everyone. And there's some people that still aren't there. It was, like I said, this was inevitable. This happens with every running back contract that gets paid around the league. This isn't a Bengals thing. Bengals probably gave him an extra year that other teams would not. But it seemed inevitable, or it seemed like we started down that path. To me, the moment was the Super Bowl when they're running well in that game. They stopped going to him. And then on the final drive, when you need a touchdown, he's not on the field. On the final drive in the Super Bowl, Mixon's on the bench. And then you even get to a 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 situation to decide the game, and Mixon's not on the field. And I think at that moment, I was like, yeah, he doesn't fit. That's not how you maximize Joe Burrow, by having an $8, $9 million, $10 million at the time running back not being able to help you in your 2-minute drill or passing offense. And then they did it again in the AFC Championship game the next year, right? Perine was playing most of the snaps. So Zack Moss can pass protect. Using PFF data over the last 2 years, Zack Moss has only lost 3 reps in pass protection, while Mixon has lost 13. So you should get better there. If you're saying protect 9 at all costs, protect Joe Burrow at all costs, well, this is one of the moves to do it. Getting more explosive, getting a guy who breaks tackles and makes defenders miss more often, does it. Getting your running efficiency, especially the Colts running it out of shotgun and running gap stuff consistently. He should be an easy fit into this offense. But still, you're losing one of your faces of your franchise in Joe Mixon. And that's going to hurt a lot of people. And I get it. You know, we're talking about the mistakes of losing Jessie Bates, potentially T. Higgins. It's a choice to lose Joe Mixon here. It's the right choice. But it stinks. Wish we would have won that Super Bowl at the time. He'll probably be a Ring of Honor player for them, maybe. We'll see. We don't even have the number 1 running back in team history up there. And then we need James Brooks as well. I mean, Rudy eventually, right? So we'll see. But yeah, up and down. Overall, though, I think they come out a little on top. I think getting a free safety in Geno Stone is good for the teams, good for the defense, good for elevating the talent, and maybe getting the talent into better positions. Thinking of Dax Hill and Jordan Battle. And that's good overall. They are different at running back. We'll see how much better that really is. And really, I subscribe to the idea that running backs really don't matter unless they're special. And Mixon wasn't special. And Zack Moss isn't special. So do I really care? No. The combination of Zack Moss, Isaac Guerendo, and Chase Brown could be special. And that gets me excited. They still need to find a tackle, a tight end, and a defensive tackle, nose tackle, corner. They did extend Travion Williams to 1 year, Drew Sample to a 3-year, $3.5 million per year, which is fine. He's your tight end 2-3. He's a blocker. Great. They still need to find a tight end 1. And they also extended for 1 year, $3 million, Akeem Davis-Gaither as the linebacker 3 and core special teamer. Good for that. Good for him. Good for the team. It could probably, I've been drafting linebackers on day 3 whenever we get there. Let's see if Marcus Bailey also returns. But if so, then we don't have to force that draft pick either. You don't have to force a Y blocking tight end draft pick for Sample. So that's what those extensions and re-signings all make sense. We're going to do film on Friday. Now I expect more moves to happen. So we may be, delay a little bit on this. But on Friday, we're going to watch Zack Moss and Geno Stone on Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. Make sure you check out that one. There'll be other moves happening in between there. I may have some analysis on Twitter at Joe Goodberry, maybe the best way to see them until we get to the next episode on Tuesday. But until then, Who Dey?
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realized self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.